Right. Somebody said to me in the ladies' loo, your brain goes a bit numb after you've had that many papers. So I thought maybe we should just have a second of mindfulness for a start. And my question you've got to think about while you're thinking about that is, can design research claim to be the answer? We seem to have had everybody suggesting it is this morning, so just a second. Just free your mind and think about that. Right. So I want this to be a bit of fun. So everybody's got to speak up and think about what we're going to talk about. This is the ad. I've just published a paper in Design Studies called Design Research, Its 50-Year Transformation. And at the end of it, I claimed the fifth wave of design research can change the world at all levels in ethical, trustworthy and collaborative ways. And I think today has illustrated some of that. But I spent this afternoon and this morning trying to write down the words. And if this sitting group like to stand up and turn around and have a look at it. So this is just my sort of, it was going to be a word cloud, but word clouds make no sense whatsoever. Typographically, one size of word is bigger than the other, but apart from that. Whereas this, I was trying to illustrate that most people who've presented have presented about something in a, sometimes it's a problem, sometimes it's a question. We like to say an investigation space, because sometimes it isn't either a problem or a question, it's just I'm interested in. And some of it has been large, complex and global, some of it's been small, complex and local, some of it is, some of it's been about technology, people, some of it's been about people and materials, some of it's been immaterial. It's all been set in a geographical or a cultural or behavioural context, and there are areas of application. I don't think this is on, is it? And actually, people have talked about the past informing the past. It doesn't work. The past informing the future, theories, practices, traditions. We've had a lot of talk about what I've called the 360 design dance, which is all about boundary spanning, multiple disciplines, social, technical, science, bridge. I love the word ferry, the new one. We've got a ferry that comes along. The research and practice bridge or ferry, the community and academic bridge, all the interdependencies related to that. We've had a lot. Now, you could start talking about methods, quantitative, qualitative, different sorts of methods, but I've jotted down what I think are the nuances that come out of when design people present their research, which is around acting on knowledge. That was the last presentation, was acting on knowledge, but you know, thought, experiments, narratives, games, metaphors, convening, co-creating, participation, ideation, sense-making, biomimicry, performance, making, world-building and design. And there is a whole issue that people have been talking about time and flux and urgency. And the metaphor of the medical research being long and maybe design research bridging some of that or ferrying through that time gap. We've talked a lot about value. We've also introduced this new concept which comes out of a lot of, in the UK, theory of change is everywhere. If you don't write an application without theory of change in it, you've had it. And we've talked about the change being social, environmental, cultural, economic, political, policy change, and the change being meta, macro, seismic, massive, or tweaked. These are lovely new terms we can all put in our papers. And actually, the seriousness is, do we produce anything other than things, processes, and insights, and possibly theories? And the big red box is, because I did a study of how design had talked about its impact on innovation in over 2,000 papers in different journals. And I wrote a paper called Design the Language of Innovation. And actually, the key terms were visualization, materiality, and futures. And, you know, do we have a language and vocabulary of design research? So that's the day in in summation from my perspective. And that helps Martin Evans because he's only just arrived. So there you go, Martin. So if the presenter would like to sit down, we can have a discussion as to whether that sums it up or what else, particularly the theorists and the practitioners here think there is something else to add, that it doesn't offer everything we've talked about today. And the audience, apart from Martin Evans, who wasn't here. And anybody got anything to say other than that? Well, I'm going to draw on it, you see, because I've got a pen. And I forgot to bring but Andy Waters gave me his pen and his iPad. So if somebody gives me something, I can write on it, you see. So what shall I add or take away? And the next question is, are we right to assume we are doing good? That was the word assumptions there. You know, in all the presentations, the assumption was, I believe, design was doing good. Do we always do good? Anybody want to start? Dan.
Anne's got the mic.
I got the microphone because I went, oh, I know something that's not up there now.
All right, go on.
And then, but I'm not sure that it was the kind of contribution you wanted.
All right,
and my feeling was that there wasn't any poetry up there.
Fine.
And that one of the things that I was really moved by during the course of listening to other people's presentations was, you know, just not. I mean, we can talk about narratives, but then when we talk about narratives, we've just boxed everything, and there are those moments of transcendence where we haven't planned something and they're not good or bad, they're just connection, they may not be expressible in language, and sometimes they are expressed in language, or there's a moment of emotion, poignancy from the presenter. So I'm just offering that as something that felt very powerful to me today that isn't captured in what is a very splendid diagram.
I have.
Oh my God, let's have a debate about that. Okay. Praxis and tacit. Well, is tacit material?
Difficult to speak or possible to speak languages.
I think of an aspect that's missing. Is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Picking up on Anne's flux and the kind of dynamics, because I think, and again, my own point about design being kind of opportunistic and performative, because I think, for instance, with service design, the fact that that is the new kid on the block and the new fashionable thing offers certain opportunities. So that means we can do something else, because it's not the static, this is what it is.
No.
Not that you're suggesting that, but just there's something about time offering, exactly where we are in time, offering certain it gives us a certain room to play, and I think design is pretty good at making use of it.
So that was the whole point of my paper, actually, because I actually talk about moving from the sort of 1960s to now, and that change, that transformation in design research, which includes service design as one of its journeys.
I'm just thinking, it might be another thing that's missing, is stopping. And I'm thinking about the bus, your bus, and I'm thinking about stopping the bus and getting off. Stopping the bus and getting off, stopping and actually stopping and thinking, because I think quite often maybe the idea of design and cycles and this sort of catalyst of things that just keep going. When do we have the opportunity to stop and really reflect and make sure we're doing the right thing? I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure where that is, but I'll just put it on the side for a note. Just to stop.
I was thinking one of the things that's maybe is obvious, but perhaps isn't there explicitly, is that I don't know, like in a lot of subjects and a lot of disciplines, there's an aim to try to get towards a kind of convergent answer or truth. You know, you're trying to get towards it's about convergence, and I think a lot of design maybe it should be in some cases about convergence, but I think a lot of the things we've seen today are not about narrowing anything down. If anything, they're about multiplying the number of possibilities in the world, or the number of ways of doing things, or opening up almost like a more divergent way of approaching the world. Like, I don't think, I mean, even ones that are explicitly, some of the projects we've seen that are explicitly addressing particular issues in particular places, I don't think any of them are about like sort of ending that thing. They're always about engaging with it in an ongoing way. So maybe there's something about, it's related to the time question, I guess, as well, in that it's almost like they're not about stopping. I don't think any of the projects aim to just fix this thing and move on. And that's quite, I don't know, that seems to be something that's quite inherent in a lot of this kind of design research, I guess. But I don't know whether that's useful or not.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, go on.
I think it was Michael's presentation. I really liked Michael's presentation that kind of proposed a 16.5-year research project, because I think we as design researchers, particularly in the UK, we kind of work in 3-year cycles, maybe 5 if you're lucky. So we have, you know, most projects, if you're lucky, 3 years. We work to these kind of 5-year ref cycles. And I think this issue of not stopping and having real kind of longevity in projects is really important, actually. So I think there's many of us in here that are advocates and liaise with funding councils, and I think we need to keep banging and asking for 16.5 years funding and not 3.
Yeah, this is not an addition, but I'm just wondering, is that a hierarchy there with the tech and the people and the material?
No.
Because, right, okay.
There's no hierarchy anywhere.
Excellent, yeah. So it's cyclical, because, I mean, if anything, I'd just make the people a bit bigger, because it just seems to me...
Well, I will argue with that.
Right, okay. Okay, can I just say why? because everybody seems to be focusing on that. And you actually just in the intro said something about doing sort of trustworthy research, you know, which I do when you listen to sort of other people researchers, you know, they're actually, I felt today everybody seemed to be really considerate in the way that they try to not other the participants and to integrate people and work with them on a level. And I was really impressed with that today, because I felt everybody had tried not to be this sort of white savior, whatever, you know, this kind of, I'm the elite art educated person that's going to come into this community and save you. So I was impressed with that today.
So that's why I put principles up there as well. But the reason I would argue with the people being always at the centre is because some of my colleagues at Lancaster are doing lots of work on the Internet of Things and AI and intelligence at the edge, and soon we'll be designing systems where things are talking to things as well as people, and we might have to look at the designing for the ecosystem, not just people-centred, because people might be in different parts of that system. Mm-hmm. So that's why I just didn't say
just
anything.
Without people, it still doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, actually, it might do.
Just a 2-word footnote: living beings.
Yeah.
Just maybe not just people, but living beings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another debatable point.
That includes plants and fungi. It includes and fish. It includes all things that live as distinct from things that are made.
But what about robots?
Do they live?
Well, they might do. Anybody in the audience? Aha, now people are talking. Right, we're going to go up the hill. So we'll start with Tom.
I thought today was a very interesting day because it was very eclectic, and things can sometimes be awful when they're eclectic. But today was brilliant because it was eclectic, because all of the presentations were very high quality. So you were very high quality eclectic. But I think the thing that I thought was very interesting in terms of what unified all of the presentations were everybody was very confidently taking their design research and their design out to a very different community. So we've been out with the fish leather community and we've been out in old people's homes, residential homes, and we've been to all sorts of places. We've been inside marine engines and so on. But in each one, the presenters were very, very confidently articulating the case for a design research and design approach. And I thought that was really. So I think the word I would have put on your chart would be confidence. Actually, Rachel, there seems to be a confidence in the group actually that you can do this, and that you can kind of empower. It goes back to that initial mindfulness question you asked.
Do we think, so that mindful question
and
is
can I get back to that? I think that something that was really interesting as well was the engagement, and I was quite touched on your presentation on the homes. I mean, and the fact that you stay in that guest room for 3 nights. I mean, that's really, for me, that's poetry, and that's what Anne was asking earlier on. The poetry of spending those 3 days and 3 nights with these people and really engaging with them at the deepest level, and that's really. I can find the engagement and the poetry, so that was really beautiful. Anyway, just wanted to say.
Do you not think that other disciplines engage?
Absolutely.
All right.
But that was one thing that really touched me in that particular way.
I thought, hello. I actually did write poetry within the thesis, and it allowed me to capture moments that weren't framed as formal research encounters. But in retrospect, thought they were in some way deeply informative. And so things like sharing a car journey over several hours, several hundred miles with a company director was an important research encounter. And so I thought, with poetry, it allows you to record episodic moments. And I think there's we all have a sort of comfort with being episodic and being comfortable with a creative, slightly blurry, confusing process sometimes. So I think with confidence I'd put comfort in a situation of flux, comfort in not knowing where the research is going.
Comfort or uncomfort?
I think we are
We're
comfortable.
uncomfortable with uncertainty.
I think we are comfortable, and perhaps one of the roles we provide is helping other people to be comfortable with a process that isn't necessarily linear.
I can't spell things without uncertainty. One of the values of Imagination Lancaster is that we rebel in uncertain territory.
Oh.
There you go.
Hi everyone, thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting to see the wide variety of initiatives working on change. One thing I would like to add is maybe, Rachel, you've touched upon that, but is ecosystems and systems thinking, which maybe is in the interdependencies. I think change does not happen in silos, so it's very much about understanding the interdependencies and effects of what we're doing. So in each of these projects, we're focusing on one area, but like what is the bigger picture and what is the impact and the consequence or the unintended consequence of what we're doing? So I think this is kind of the next step that I see in design, whereas rather than, working on one thing, how are we aware of what are the effects of what we're doing in a wider context?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, one thing that may be missing that I thought of, and it's perhaps been touched on a few places today, but it's this thing of, because now it's quite positive and we are doing good and things. And I think one of the lovely things about design research is that you can be difficult and subversive and kind of pull the carpet under what you're actually doing. It's what I said, what is the desired state? I mean, what are we working towards? And there's something about being difficult and trusting the fact that you're holding something out. And we have to do that in the innovation space. All the developers want to just make the thing. And we keep trying to say, no, we don't know yet. So we're being difficult, basically. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Not just actually being difficult, like being a terrible person to work with, to some.
Mind you, I would say that quite a lot of scientists are challenging too.
Yeah. No, it's not unique to design, but we are also that. We're not always the problem solvers and the saviors, and we're also difficult.
There's one there, and then where was the one up? Oh, yeah.
Sorry. We've seen some great stuff today, and I think we've got a real opportunity at the moment. I think people seem to want design, but not quite sure what it is or what it can do. And I think we don't want to blow this opportunity. And I think it's referring back to something Anne said this morning, and Dan touched on it. I think to convince the decision makers, because I think it's come out a lot, there's a lot of great stuff, but there are a lot of decision makers out there who hold the power to whether things are going to happen or not. And I think Anne talked about the plausible and the possible, and we're very good at doing the plausible, and we need to keep doing that. But it's how do we move from the plausible to the possible to the probable? Because I think we've got to put forward those arguments to convince the politicians and the money holders, and then we've got some evidence. Because at the moment I think there's an awful lot of plausible ideas we've got, but how do we move it forward?
What did you say? Plausible, possible and?
Probable.
Yeah. Don't you think, so I want to answer that one. So, you know, I've been doing research and getting funding for like years and years and years, and it's always been under the guises of something else often in order to get it, because people didn't understand design research as such. Do you think that we are now grown up enough to do that? And do you think there are enough researchers around to do it? That's coming back to you, or anybody else for that matter. Are we a mature research community?
Do we want that? Do we want design for the sake of design? Isn't design always for something else? It's for the quality of living, it's for people's individual experiences going to work, it's for the fashion industry. They're all very different things that aren't specifically designed that we want to patch design into to help it. But we sort of want to disappear afterwards. We don't, like, once our job is done, we're happy with that. And we want to go on to the next challenge and not stay in our own cocoon.
Do you know, I think we could have a whole debate on that. Absolutely a whole debate on that, because in medicine, do the different medics in the different parts of medicine say we don't want medical research?
They want it for the same object of study, which is the health of people. It goes back down to the idea of, does design have an object of study, which is already, again, another debate in itself.
Thank you. Now, there was one there and one there.
I actually wanted to bring the conversation back to the word confidence. And I actually think confidence is a little dangerous. And I actually will be speaking about this in my presentation tomorrow, so come back. So I think that intention actually might be the right word. Also, to go back to your question on, yes, there was an assumption that the intention of your work is good, but does that always actually happen when you evaluate the outcome of your work? So I wanted to actually just take a step back, and I think you might have the intention, but if you have confidence, that actually, I think, means that you come in already knowing the solution, and that is what's dangerous, because you aren't actually able to truly engage and listen to the communities that you are designing with. So I would say intention, not confidence.
Oh, right. Anybody want to discuss before we move on to the next? Yeah, go on, Dan. Here.
Thanks, Rachel. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I sort of think I would prefer humility than confidence, or a combination of them. I think maybe confidence about, well, I don't know, it's not confidence about, it's confidence about being able to draw on a set of skills to work with things and people and issues, but I wouldn't want it to be confidence that, in the sense of we already know what's right. I'd rather it was a sort of humility of, we are confident in the limits of our skills maybe, and we're confident in that, but not in having the right answer. Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to, I mean, I genuinely don't. I'm trying to engage with things, and I feel that I'm not even confident in that, I guess, but I'd like to be, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Right.
I think Dan's maybe just put forward or demonstrated something that I think's missing here, and that's joy.
Yes, exactly.
I think joy in who we're designing with, joy in doing design research and doing design. It's amazing how many people have told great stories and positive stories, and actually most people are doing so with a smile on their face. So there must be something in that. It's rewarding. in the variety that we're engaging with.
Well, is anybody on the front row not enjoying their job? Stand up. Okay, right. If there's anybody in the audience who wants to offer anybody in the front another job, let them know later. Andy.
I just wanted to link the comment that we had up here to the question that you put at the beginning, as does design do good? I think it's our intention that it should do good. That doesn't mean that it always does, but that means that we do need research that shows where it does good, but we also need design research so that we get better at doing design, so design can do the good.
Thank you. That was an eloquent answer.
Yeah, I'm going to plug my own work here.
Go on.
Francesco and I have done a study of 67 projects, and we've tried, well, I think we've articulated quite well because they accepted the paper, where design research for change, be it social, cultural, economic or environmental, does good. So I think that's, when's it coming out, Francesco? The Design Journal? Quite soon. Yeah. There you go. That's shameless. Shameless.
Yeah, so I'll pitch you my paper on that one then, Paul. I did a paper ages ago on design and did a model that illustrated how designers actually contribute to all the bad things in the world, like products and places and services and systems that are really rubbish and make people ill. But also they get a double whammy because they then design all the medical devices and all the systems that get people out of those situations. So we've always got it both ways. But actually, I think we should start thinking about not having it both ways and having a responsibility, not only as design researchers, but as designers. Anyway, we have not got long, but we've got one down there and one there. Oh gosh, right. They've got to be quick now. 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to add something in the center of that graphic. I think also we have different depths of different research collaborations. So we have research on the surface, and then some of the research we being collaborate with other disciplines have depths like collaborations or like works. So we kind of not always research or works in the same depths. And so that's something we can think
We'll
about.
have to make the diagram three-dimensional then. There was, yeah.
I suppose it's partly a
Have you got a written question there? This is not question time.
Well, I'm trying to work out what I'm trying to say, and then the conversation moves on. I have to change it. I suppose it's partly a question and partly a comment, but it's about whether for designers there's value in uncertainty, and it plays to the strengths of value to maintain uncertainty, and that, you know, in a sense we need to be continually introspective and reflective on what design is as a discipline in order to be able to address the unpredictable challenges that we're going to face in the future.
Great. I hope, Paul, that this has been recorded, yes? So all the words that people said, we could actually knit it together and write another paper.
And there is a word I wanted to add, but I don't think I can say it. It's the Forster-Grouper.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll have that added later because I can't spell it, so you're all right. Now, there was a couple more, and then I think we've got to stop. So there's one.
Thank you. Now I'm going to forget what I was going to be. So I'm curious because of the interdisciplinary nature of the speakers today, and I agree that's been really great. But I'm just curious about the word design and what it is that's being presented as being good. So it's been commented. It's this. So if everyone's going into community and working with people to hopefully help people to make a change within their community, feels a bit like facilitation and possibly a bit like teaching, which we've already discussed. Like a lot of people are in here today are in that position, and I'm just wondering where the panel think the crossover might lie. Like where does it become design? Where does it become craft and facilitation? What is the boundary?
Why? Well, just because I nodded, or what?
Yes.
Okay, I'm voting nodding.
May I add, if that's all right?
I think that question there, did I? Okay. But there is a lot of that, though. It does seem a lot that what we're actually doing in a lot of design engaging with people, this sort of research is about essentially facilitating conversations using materials maybe, or using diagrams or visualizations or materiality or futures, and talking about but it is facilitation. I think it is, but I don't think all design research is. But maybe it's just that. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm not sure whether or not it's explicitly about teaching, or whether it's more about people teaching us. Like it's not. I think it's more. There's a different hierarchy, I guess, maybe. But we're in the process of being students in the sense of trying to learn from the world or learn from interactions with people. And I say it may be many of the same skills, but I'm not sure it's exactly the same as teaching. I don't know.
Super quick comment. No, and I think there's a couple of things. Like, it's about being confident. Facilitation sounds really like we're throwing our profession away, but I think it's about trusting the design research methods and the expertise that we have. But I'd be really concerned about using the word help. I don't think designers are help. If we go out and want to help people, I think that's a terrible starting point. And this is exactly where working with people comes in, but coming into it with our particular expertise. But this thing of helping, then you're giving somebody, poor people kind of thing. And I think it's not starting. I think we just usually use that word a lot, and we shouldn't.
And I think you're right. I have somebody who did a PhD in performance and facilitation in drama, and actually they use lots of the systems, but they don't use post-it notes. And I'm hoping the design profession will stop using post-it notes, but that's just another. No, we've got one up there and one down here, and then we've got to stop.
Hi, thank you for today. It's been very enjoyable. I just wanted to, one word I feel is missing. My own work is looking at design and development, and I feel that the non-Western perspective is really important to add to this discussion, because actually we're very privileged in this room.
I totally agree, and that's why I put geographies there, but maybe it needs to be more explicit, because the global north and global south, and indeed America, have different views on life. So, yeah, I totally agree. And it'll be good to hear that tomorrow, because it didn't quite come through today, although I think it was intended in some of the discussions. Thank you. And then there was...
just to add connection, we have to consider connection, how design is connected to other disciplines, and the rapid change happening to that different disciplines, and how design should rapidly change accordingly, like what you, Rachel, mentioned earlier about IoT, what we're doing in Lancaster, robots, and maybe taking over design, being artistic robots and all of this. So connection is very important, and we have to look like in a speculative approach, what's going to happen to design with all the changes happening to other disciplines as well. So again, connection and thinking without discipline.
Thank you very much. We've got to stop now. So, are you going to speak?
Just quickly, maybe actually it's about some words that have been just reframing. Subversive, actually I would rather call it design activism, and then maybe from picking up Britta's point, maybe decolonization of design. About other perspective, decolonization of design, non-Western perspectives.
Oh my God!
Oh, we've got to have a discussion. Can I just say, actually, I still want us to think about what right do we have to assume we are doing good, and also what is the desired state for whom? And that was brought up by who brought up the desired state issues? Somebody did in this afternoon. The desired state. Yeah, I thought so, yeah. So, is Brexit a desired state for whom and by whom? And what right do we have to assume we're designing for other people? So I think we should carry on questioning what we are doing and what we're stating we're doing. But actually, it was a wonderful day. It was really interesting to hear it all and to build a landscape. It'd be interesting to hear whether it's repeated tomorrow or there's something completely different. So thank you very much.